Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. So for today I have some new and really early Christmas crafts that you are going to love. And today's video is sponsored by Cricut. A big thank you to them. I'm starting off with this picture frame, which I found at Dollar Tree. Now I have so many ideas for this, but this one came to mind because last year I created a Santa cam out of a flashlight and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to link that video below. But I know a lot of people still can't find that lens, so this is another solution. I think this is a nice twist on it. So I'm taping this off because I still do want those natural wood colors, but I do want to get rid of the purple. So I'm painting this red, but you can paint yours whatever color you'd like. So just to touch up the black that I had messed up with the red paint, I'm using a paint pen, but you can of course use a Sharpie, or if you have a really steady hand, black paint and a brush will do. I use this method because my hand is not so steady. On Cricut Design Space, I use a combination of these two images. I'm gonna link those below. So it's Santa Cam and this Santa. Just look in my description and you'll be able to find it. And then I'm gonna use white permanent vinyl on my Cricut Maker 3. If you've never heard of a Cricut, Cricut is a cutting machine that cuts through so many different types of materials. It cuts through vinyl, chipwood, cardboard, leather, fabric, you name it, it cuts it. And today I'm using it to cut out all of these designs, which are going to elevate these Dollar Tree DIYs. By the way, a tip when using smart vinyl and the roller is to cut it off before you unload. It just makes your life easier. I've weeded out my design and then I put transfer tape on top, and of course I'm going to transfer it over to my little Santa cam. So this step is really easy. You've seen me weed out before a ton of times. I'm putting it right off to the side. Now you can put a picture of your child here, or you can paint that black to make it look like a lens, but look how cute this is. Okay, so hear me out. This is a Valentine's item, but Dollar Tree always has all of the holidays out at once. So I grabbed these last year with hopes to make this craft, which is why I'm making it early. So I'm grabbing some of this paper from Dollar Tree. It's in the Crafter Square section, and I'm cutting it out just to put it inside. It is vinyl, so you can kind of, tape it on there, but because of the position, I just hot glued it into place, because if not, it would have been a big wrinkly mess. So I'm hot gluing, and I really should have painted one white because the other one that I got is pink, so I used the two galvanized ones. On Cricut Design Space, this is the image that I'm using. I'm going to link it in my description. So that is just letters to Santa. I'm cutting it out with my Cricut Maker 3, and then I am transferring it over. I did this in 2 steps, so instead of just making one SVG, I separated the stamp from the 2 Santa so that I have better placement. I'm going to remove that little bow, place my 2 Santa, and then I'm going to add my little postage stamp. I probably could have gotten away with adding some more stuff like priority mail, but this would have looked a little too loaded. So I'm adding my stamp. And then to make this look a little cuter, I'm adding some Christmas greenery, which this is from one of the Dollar Tree picks, and then I'm adding the bow back on. For the galvanized one, I used some black permanent vinyl. Red would look really cute, or green, but if you use white, it's not going to show up very much, so keep that in mind. Here's another Dollar Tree item that isn't meant for Christmas, but we are turning it into one. So we are turning Dexter into Rudolph. The moment that I saw this months ago, I knew that this would be perfect for Christmas. So I'm going to take some red paint and I'm going to paint his little nose red, just like Rudolph. And that is the extent of what we are doing to this fine gentleman. Actually, just kidding. I am going to put his name on there just so it's very obvious that this is Rudolph. That is the font that I used. I was initially going to add like a little saddle or something, but I think that would have been a little too much. So I'm transferring that over, not too close to the top, but right where it's visible. And now we're gonna move on to the fun stuff. I'm grabbing some Dollar Tree candles, and I'm grabbing this one because it's just easier to melt and remove the wick. To remove the wick, you just pull from the bottom and you set them to the side. This is the perfect height. Some people like to melt candle wax in the microwave using 10-second intervals. I like to do it stovetop, so I just get an old pan, fill it up about halfway with water, and usually I have a pitcher, but today I'm just using a can because this is not a lot of wax, so I really don't want to bust out my pitcher. I'm gonna melt one by one because if not, it's just a little too much and takes way too long. So when one melts, I add the other one, and then I just move on. When it's finally fully melted, I transfer it over to something with a spout. If I use my pitcher, I don't need to do this, but pouring from the can would be a little messy. So I'm going to hot glue my wick to the bottom. You can also just dip that into wax and set it into place. And then I'm adding a little clothespin so that it doesn't fall as you pour the wax. Pour it all the way and make sure that you let it dry really well before lighting. I found this little mini wreath on an old ornament and I hot glued it to the front far away from the flame, and oh my gosh, I love this so much. In the Crafter Square section, get yourself a crate. Any crate will do, but I prefer the lower ones, and you're also gonna get yourself a bowl. I got this one because it was already red, so that was perfect, one less thing to paint. Now I'm gonna paint my crate green. The color scheme is completely up to you, but this went perfectly for what I had in mind. While the crate dries, I'm gonna use a combination of this font and this little image that is on Cricut Design Space. I'll go ahead and link the image below, and I cut that out using my Cricut Maker, and I'm gonna transfer that onto the front of the crate. Now the crate is going to be upside down, so make sure that you keep that in mind when placing any type of design. I'm adding it to one of the sides of the crate, and I'm making sure that it's nice and straight. Remember to measure everything before you cut out your vinyl, because I did end up with one that was a little too large. And now for the bowl, I'm just removing the bottom part. I don't like using Glue Gun on this, not because I don't love Glue Gun, but because I know I'm gonna use glue on this in a bit, and Glue Gun, So now I'm gonna use this from Dollar Tree. They have this every single year. Now the inspo for this craft is actually a Halloween craft that is super popular on Pinterest, which is using the witch legs to hold up a bowl. Jessica Lynn, aka Measure and Mix, she has done a few of those on her channel, and I'll link her below. But I figured, why not take that same concept and turn it into a Christmas craft? So that is exactly what we're doing. I'm going ahead and using a seam ripper to remove the bottom, because we want this thing to be sturdy. So I'm gonna remove just some of the cotton and use some wood dowels. These are back in stock at Dollar Tree, but I'm using something a little sturdier. You can get these at Walmart and cut them down. I'm using my mini saw, and as usual, the mini saw will always be linked in my description. I'm cutting them as even as possible. The more even it is, the sturdier this is. If you absolutely want to keep this 100% Dollar Tree, you can use the ends of this. I always save the ends of my foam brushes. They are a little short, but you can tape them together. Whatever works for you. I'm taking out some of that fluff, stretching out the top, and then putting my dowel in. I don't want to remove all of the fluff because it still needs to hold its shape up front and in the back, but enough to get the dowel in comfortably. Now you don't have to sew this back up. I actually don't recommend it because you want the wood to make contact with the other wood. So if you're enjoying this video and you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because once you hit subscribe, we instantly become best friends. And follow me on my socials just in case YouTube doesn't let you know when I post, and back to the video. I'm doing the same thing to the other side. I want to make sure that they're both ready to go so that when I glue, I can adjust where they need to go and not have one ready and one not ready, if that makes sense. Because even though we've cut these dowels down to the exact size, there's always a few discrepancies, so I just like to have both of them ready. So now I'm going to expose the bottom, make sure it's standing straight. And for this, I'm going to use a combination of both wood glue, which is what I'm using right here, and hot glue. I'm putting that down and making sure that it is nice and straight. And then I am pushing that down, doing the same thing to the other side. And if any adjusting needs to happen, this would be when you do it. Put that little leg down, and then now you can hot glue the top. If you want to make this extra sturdy, get yourself a piece of wood round and hot glue that first, and then your bowl. I should have done that, but if I do this again, I will be doing that. Make sure you hold it into place, let it set, and boom. So that's it for me. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. A big thank you to Cricut for sponsoring today's video, and as usual, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you on the next one.